Hello, I'm Andy Thayer with the Gay Liberation Network, and joining us here tonight is also Scott Free with the Gay
Hey.
Liberation Network. And Scott wears a number of hats, and not just the one he's got on tonight. Scott, for those who don't know, is a very well-known local musician here in Chicago, really frankly the leader of the LGBT music scene.
Thank you.
And really one of the probably the premier LGBT music event of the year is something we've got coming up tomorrow night, which, as you saw on your screen, is the Alt Q Festival. Scott, could you tell people what the Alt Q Festival is?
The LQ Festival was really created to bring gay and lesbian, bisexual, transgendered musicians to our community, and also to the world outside. But yeah, mostly just to give exposure to a lot of musicians who are really, really talented but haven't had the exposure that they deserve. And I just think it's a great way for our community to recognize its own artists.
Yeah. Now, how long has the Alt Q Festival been around, and what were the reasons why it started, in your view?
This is the ninth year. And we actually, it was about 10 years ago, I was at a concert. It was called the First Friday Series at the Old Town School of Folk Music. And I saw Erin Tedesco performing. And she's in a group called the Congress of Starlings, who are actually emceeing tomorrow night. And I just was really inspired by it, and I thought that the Old Town School really needed a gay and lesbian music festival. So this festival is really just as much about the Old Town School of Folk Music as it is me wanting to do a gay and lesbian festival.
Okay, and this isn't the only thing. Besides your own gigs you do during the year, that you also have, I believe it's a weekly or monthly forum.
Yeah, twice a month. I have a series. It's called Homo Latte, and it's at Big Chick's Tweet, which is a bar restaurant on Sheridan and Foster. And yeah, it's a way to present also in a similar way gay and lesbian musicians, also spoken word artists, but it's on a more kind of a local level. There might be people touring through town who would come and play it, but it's also just a great way for somebody who isn't, like has a day job but likes doing music or writing. It gives them an opportunity to have a real performance setting. It's a full set for them, and they bring their friends, and so again, it's a real community kind of an event.
Right. Now, Alt Q is obviously about out LGBT performers. Has there been a problem, in your view, historically, without LGBT folks being able to get the venues, get the gigs because they're out?
Well, I mean, there's been a long history of musicians being in the closet because they were gay. George Michael is a classic example. The only reason he's out is he got caught in a bathroom. So, and there have been many, many musicians over the years. I mean, Liberace never came out.
Right.
And
Larry Craig, we're still waiting for.
So yeah, I mean, there's a very long history of that, and certainly there have been, and I've heard stories over the years of pressure put on by record companies is that you have to stay in the closet.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so that's been a problem, and it still continues. It still continues. I still hear stories like that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I find ironic is that even some of our own LGBT organizations and events themselves, sometimes, maybe it's due to internalized homophobia or something, showcase non-gay performers and either don't have any LGBT performers at all, or shunt them off to the side, or say, okay, because you're LGBT, you should donate your services while the straight performers don't. Tell us a little bit about that.
Again, a long history. Our Pride festivals around the country, there's two issues that go on. They will very often feature straight performers, exclusively straight performers. And then the other issue is that they will pay straight performers and not pay gay performers.
Right.
And for me, one of the issues is that most of Pride festivals around the country are free, and you just go to them because it's a Pride festival. That's the point, you know.
Right, right.
And so this idea that they have to somehow market it instead of realizing the point of a Pride Festival is community.
Mm-hmm,
So, and people are going to go out and they're going to have a good time. So why don't you? That's a great opportunity again to support and promote gay and lesbian artists.
right.
And yeah, so there have been problems. I protested the Pride Fest here in Chicago for a number of years because of that very issue. And yeah, I think it's just. I mean, there's a lot of factors. I mean,
Yeah.
and one is just laziness, where they just don't take the work, or hire the right people to book these events.
Right.
The people who have knowledge about gay and lesbian musicians, and then I think that again they do kind of internalize homophobia and kind of live in the closet.
Yeah.
They like to bring in disco artists from the 70s. And that entire genre, except for early on, it was people like the Village People or Sylvester, and those things were very out. Their music was extremely out.
Yeah.
But then very quickly, disco changed and became really closeted music.
Yeah.
It's Raining Men is a classic closet song.
Yeah.
It is, if you listen to the lyric, it is a heterosexual lyric. It is a woman talking about her love of men.
Yeah.
And so, we say, oh, isn't that a cute joke? Well, no, it's not a cute joke. It's really living in the closet.
Yeah.
And that's what they continue to do when they book the disco artists from the 70s.
Well, it seems like in terms of the affection for movie stars and so forth is so much often, oh, let's do not celebrate our own community, but let's prove how worthy we are, perhaps, of acceptance by this fawning approach to non-gay performers. When it's hard enough for gay, whether it's athletes or performers at all.
Yeah, if you look at the covers of all the national gay magazines and just kept track of how many times they have straight people on versus gay people, straight people win every time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a little break here to do a few announcements. First about the Alt-Q Festival that's coming up here. And we're going to get this up on the screen here. There we go. Technical difficulties. Scott, tell us, you mentioned here at the bottom here some of the various musicians. Tell us a little bit about some of these musicians, Jeff Heiskell, etc. Tell us about those.
Sure. Jeff Heiskell was in an alternative 90s band called the Judy Bats. And very big. They were on Warner Brothers. They had a big hit, and they played in the Midwest many times at huge crowds for their shows. And he was the lead singer of that band. Came out many years ago, but I think this is his first solo performance in Chicago since the Judy Bats. And we also have Tret Fuhr, who's like a real legend in the women's music movement. Women's music is what it was called in the 70s. It just really was an explosion of women. And the point was that they did everything themselves. They produced the records, they mixed the records, they distributed the records. It was Olivia Records was the big label. Yeah. So she was from that era, and she's an incredible folk artist. Edie Carey is a wonderful bisexual pop performer. She tours all around the country all the time, and she's a wonderful pop artist. Sweet Hello is from the Old Town School of Folk Music. They both teach there, and I always try to include somebody from the Old Town School of Folk Music in my show. Right. Greg Shapiro is a local writer. He writes for Chicago Free Press. He does their music and movie reviews, and he has a book of poetry out. So he'll be reading. Okay. Stella and the Heatbirds are a local alternative Americana group. They use a lot of old-fashioned styles. They mix in jazz. They use accordion, trombone, all kinds of instrumentation. So they're really fun. And I'm the host. Yes, and I'll be playing a few songs. Indeed, and we're going to have a little something from Scott a little later on here. Yes. But just for those who want to find out about the Q Festival, again at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, the Old Town School of Folk Music up there on Lincoln, wee bit north of Montrose Avenue. If you're interested in tickets, just go to that, just check out their phone number there, or go to the website,
I might add that GLN, the Gay Liberation Network, is in part benefiting from this performance, and we certainly do appreciate that. But before we go on to discussing more about Alt-Q, just a few more announcements in terms of things that the Gay Liberation Network has got coming up. We've got something known as Idaho, known as the International Day Against Homophobia. This is an annual event marking the anniversary when the World Health Organization said that gays and lesbians should be removed from their list of mental disorders. And this is celebrated right around the world and recently began being celebrated here in the United States. And each year, the Gay Liberation Network, we choose a particular target of protest for the problem of anti-gay discrimination and violence. And this year we're choosing the example of U.S.-occupied Iraq. There has been a huge flurry of anti-gay murders, a real pogrom, you might say, going on against gay people, particularly in Baghdad, torturing gay people and then viciously murdering them. And unfortunately, it's not only been Shiite death squads that have been involved in this, encouraged by local clerics, but also the government itself has turned a blind eye to this violence and indeed has executed some gay people for being gay, according to some reports. And so we want to highlight the fact that U.S.-occupied Iraq is viciously not only discriminating, but literally murdering gay people in that country. Recently, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton went to Baghdad and spoke with the government, as any number of her predecessors have and other U.S. officials, and there was not one peep of protest out of her mouth about this very, very serious human rights problem happening in a very close U.S. ally. And so we're going to be having our protest on next week from this Sunday outside Chicago, the Chicago residence of President Obama down in Hyde Park. And for maybe a little bit difficult to see on your screen there, it's going to be at Hyde Park Boulevard, which is essentially 51st Street and South Greenwood. Again, 2 p.m. a week from this Sunday. We really need to call attention to this problem of very vicious homophobia currently going on in Iraq, where people literally are being killed in the streets of Baghdad because they are perceived to be gay or lesbian. Another event coming up. Anytime on a weekday between now and June 3rd, the California Supreme Court is going to be issuing its decision on whether or not to uphold the anti-gay Proposition 8. And we in the Gay Liberation Network, in conjunction with other organizations such as Join the Impact Chicago, are going to be holding a protest or a celebration, depending on how that decision goes, 7 p.m. On the night of the decision. If you want to get a text message or a Twitter or an email, go to www.dayofdecision.org. You can get signed up. You can find out immediately when that decision is coming so that you can participate yourself. But now I'd like to turn it back again, have a little preview perhaps of the Alt-Q Festival. Again, that's tomorrow night. And Scott is going to do GLN first here on our program. We're going to have live music and not the canned stuff that you hear at the opening part of our program. So whenever you're ready, Scott.
Okay. And as you said, this actually tomorrow's show is a benefit for Gay Liberation Network. And so I'm going to do a song that I wrote very much in that spirit. They taunt me because I comfort you. They sneer at me because I smile at you. They laugh at me because I cry with you. They hate me because I love you. When will this be all in history? When will we be free? When will this be lie to me because I'm true to you. They abandon me because I'm there for you. They hate me because I love you. When will this be all in history? When will we be free? When will this be all in history? When will we be free? They fight me because I fought for you. They harm me because I heal you. They kill me because I die for you. They hate me because I love you. When will this be all in history? When will we be free? When will this be all in history? When will we be free?
Yes. Scot-free.
Thank you.
Scot-free. And Scott, you've got a website. Let people know what that
Sure,
is.
it's scotfree.net.
Okay. Scott, I'm very interested in the history behind that song. Tell our listeners a little bit about it.
Well, I think that, as a songwriter, I always try to, I guess every song I try to write, I try to make an anthem.
Okay, and that was a Scot-free original. That wasn't someone else's. That was what I was getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, in a joking way, in the spirit of Bob Dylan, I decided it had to be a harmonica song. And just, I think, the whole song grew out of the line, "They hate me because I love you," which is the thing that I find, fascinating and disturbing about the opposition to our existence, is that they're against our love, which is a very, very strange thing to be fighting against.
Right.
With the whole gay marriage issue, I'm fascinated to hear their argument, because what are you arguing against? Two people who want to live together because they love each other? That's what you're going to argue against.
And what business is of yours?
Right, absolutely. But yeah, I want to hear your argument. Let's hear what you got to say about that.
Yeah. Well, it just the whole notion that that us living our lives as consenting adults can somehow be so offensive to them says something, I think, much more about those who oppose us than anything else. It's
Absolutely.
There's something very strange going on there
Right.
that psychologists could have a field day with.
Yeah, they spent some time on us. They need to spend a little time on them.
Yeah. As the phrase goes, focus on your own family. Again, let's get back to the Alt-Q Festival. This is something, again, coming up 7 p.m. tomorrow night. When you first proposed this to the Old Town School of Folk Music, which is, of course, hosting tomorrow night, what was the reaction when you did that, Scott?
Actually, it was positive from the very beginning. No question about it. In fact, the original name was the Queer Is Folk Festival, which was again, it
since
was
copyrighted.
Yeah. Well, it was a play on, a very close play on the show, and I worried I would get sued, but I never did. But that show has ended, and so we changed the name. But that was, putting queer in the title, that was a strong thing 10 years ago. So, they've always been supportive. And I think I think it has so much to do, again, like what you were saying, the type of people who will oppose us. The Old Town School of Folk Music is a wonderful organization, and they understand community completely. So the fact that we bring in a little different community into their world they love it.
Well, it's about artistic expression. If you're about clamping down on artists and so forth, then that'd be one thing. But if you're about promoting artistic expression, which presumably the Old Town School of Folk Music is, if they start, saying, okay, everyone except those people, then there's a whole problem. So there's probably something to the fact that it was so easy for them to say, yeah, that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
And let's tap into that audience. Let's tap into that whole set of performers in a way that we haven't historically.
It's
really to their credit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it says a lot about the folk world, too, in a way.
Yeah,
You know?
well, and the folk world historically has really led in terms of being promoting of human freedom of all sorts.
Absolutely,
That
absolutely.
so many people that were blacklisted as musicians and other kinds of performers were, of course, folk performers,
Right.
and so that's a very admirable history that you're following in the wake of there.
Well, and I also think that, I mean, another reason that I write what I write
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
put these shows on is that I think that music is a great way to get a message across.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
it you know, you can do it both in the lyric, but when you add the music to the lyric and people can remember the song and they can, you know, get into it.
Hmm.
I actually, I mean, that's why music has been a part of any political
Hmm.
movement all along.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, and just again, it's the Alt Q Festival, 7 p.m. tomorrow. If you want to find out more information about it, just call the Old Town School of Folk Music. You see the number on your screen there, or just browse on your web to the altqfestival.com. You
Mm-hmm.
can get all sorts of different. They've got great bios of the performers up there. And it really is. I'm going to be there. I hope all of you are there. It's a benefit for GLN to
Yes.
boot. Really knocking it out of the park. And just before we close, I'd just like to, on a personal note, some people may know that I was on felony trial earlier this week for my part in a protest against President George W. Bush back in January of 2008. As the court agreed, fortunately, completely bogus felony charges. I was acquitted, and I just wanted to extend a real thanks to some of the people out in TV land there who supported me and everyone else, because we were protesting against the continuing wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and now Pakistan, the siege of Gaza and so forth. And those wars continue, and we thought we had to step up our protest, that we couldn't have George W. visiting Chicago and have everyone just roll out the red carpet for him. And so we protested, and in retaliation, I was slapped with a couple of felony charges and fortunately was acquitted earlier this week. And so thank you to those who supported me, and thanks to my fellow people in Gay Liberation Network who supported me as well. Just a few quick announcements again before we close out the show. Alt Q Festival tomorrow night. There's the information, 773-728-6000, Old Town School of Folk Music. And Idaho coming up a week from this Sunday, 2 p.m. Sunday, May 17th, focusing on the continuing violence against gay people in Iraq with a protest outside President Obama's Chicago residence down on Hyde Park Boulevard in South Greenwood, Chicago. You can just go to our website to get more information about that. And Day of Decision, the evening that the California Supreme Court issues its decision on Prop 8, 7 p.m. in front of the Center on Halsted Street, followed by a march. And then, of course, our next GLN meeting, first Wednesday of each month, is going to be Wednesday, June 3rd. And then a little bit of information there about our next show, which is coming up Friday, June 12th. Yes, fancy graphics that. Thank you very much. And check out our website, www.gayliberation.net and www.davedecision.org. Again, this is Andy Thayer with Scott Free. Thank you for watching tonight, and we'll see you next time. Take care.